Coast TV, streaming on demand at thecoast.net.nz.
On Coast, I asked him to bring in the guitar, and he's done just that. Off a flight from, I think, Australia in the early hours of this morning as well. John Rowles, welcome to the Coast studio.
Nice to be here.
Thanks for bringing in the guitar as well. So
My little baby, Cheryl. I call it Cheryl.
Has that guitar been around a while?
Actually, I've had this guitar for, I would say 40 years.
Really?
Yeah, and it's still held up, you know. I still use it today, and it's got a beautiful crisp sound. It's an ovation, which is round back, you know.
Yeah.
I just used it in Australia last night at a special birthday party.
So you're still a very, very busy man. I mean, Australia, back to New Zealand, you're still doing the concert circuit. I mean, after how many years now from Kawarau to here?
Well, I actually am backing off a bit with the touring now because I've been doing that for 48 years. And I started, 17 touring. And Eddie Lowe and I went overseas first. And then I've been all over the world from being a newspaper boy in Kawarau. I used to deliver newspapers.
Yeah.
And I ended up in the Persian Room in Plaza Hotel in New York.
That's pretty incredible, really, isn't it? I mean, there aren't too many people that can say that have come out of Kawarau, which is a little timber town in the Eastern Bay of Plenty, to go to Vegas and so on. You're probably the biggest name to come out of Kawarau.
Well, I was until these young ladies started getting gold medals.
Yes, it's true.
in the Olympics. But, Kawarau is my humble upbringing. And
do you ever go back there?
I
just got back.
Family? I just got back. I did my in a sense, my last touring show in Kawarau about 6 weeks ago. And it was just so fantastic, you know. It was a picture theatre that I used to go and see the Howard Morrison Quartet. Oh, and all the Juices, when I was, around about 12 or 13. And I used to go to that same hall, and I looked around, and it just looks bigger than it looked when it should have been the other way around. It should have looked bigger then. But I was getting dressed in the dressing room, and I could see outside the back the location where I picked up my heralds every morning, and there was an old bus sitting there. And it was a real rusty old bus, and it's still there. It hasn't moved.
So wonderful memories.
So they're great memories.
You've got the book out now. It's called If I Only Had Time, and it basically takes the reader on a journey from when you began in Kawarau doing the paper run right through till today, I guess.
Yes, it is. It starts in where I grew up, which is Edgecumbe, Matata, Kawarau. And then it tells the story of how I left and, who I left with on my little prefect car after the Herald run. And I used to work at the mill there too. And we just wanted to get out of there. So, try our luck musically in Auckland. So I came up to Auckland. And then from there went over to Australia and had a good break in Australia. And then somebody discovered me and took me all the way to London. And I was sort of internationally on my way.
You could have stayed in London and probably became, well, you were a big star anyway, but you made the choice to come back, didn't you?
No, I never liked the cold weather, That's why one of the reasons I got out of Kawarau. It was freezing in the morning.
Yeah, in winter.
But I went to London, and I love the atmosphere of London. I used to walk down the street with my big black overcoat and my umbrella and my brolly and go to Chinese restaurants and all that. But the Playboy Club, we used to go to the Playboy Club,
Been to that club.
Did all that. I stayed for Portchester Place. I stayed for about 2 years, and I was recording constantly. And I recorded so many songs. I couldn't believe how many songs I've sung with Norrie Paramore. Peter Gormley took me over there, who was Cliff Richard and the Shadows manager. And he also managed later Olivia Newton-John and Frank Ifield. And I sort of fit into that slot and recorded heaps of songs. And I'm just actually, along with the book, If I Only Had Time, I'm releasing my anthology album of about 60 songs, that I started with. Then I went to the States and continued recording. And so all of these songs are on my anthology album. And so the book and the anthology is out now.
So about that time, I mean, it was a time, an era of big ballad singers like Tom Jones, Engelbert Humperdinck, and so on. So you were
And that
right
fellow
there.
in the back, those two guys.
Yeah, well,
Sinatra
Frank Sinatra.
and Dean Martin.
And you've got some
It was-
memories too of in your book of spending time with Sammy Davis Jr. and people like that.
Yeah, I've fitted into the big ballad era. There was four of us. There was Tom Jones, Engelbert Humperdinck, myself, and Solomon King. We were the big balladeers, that was a good era, it's like I fit right into that, and it became very popular. And like people like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones were all around doing their stuff too, heaps of people. But I was just fortunate enough to fit into that big voice style thing, with the songs. And at the time they were writing they were actually collecting European songs, Italian songs, and giving them to English lyricists. Like "If I Only Had Time" was a French song, melody, and Jack Fishman, Englishman, wrote the "If I Only Had Time, Only Time," and that I got that one. So
Wow.
and that went all the way up.
And that
up the
changed
charts.
your life, really, didn't it, that song?
Yes, it did. It gave me recognition, and it was a slow climber, which is great. It didn't go from 100 to number one, or number two, I think it got to. It went from 100 to 92 to 88 to a slow climber, which was great because it meant that it got a lot of airplay.
And it meant that you weren't getting the same wage as a paperboy from Kawarau, didn't
Yeah,
it?
that changed too. Yeah, that changed. I went straight to Carnaby Street and bought up the whole street. I remember once when I had needed a nice new suit and Paul McCartney was in there getting measured up for one of his Beatles suits. So it went from from night to day. It just went from from that to that in a hurry.
And then Cheryl Moana Marie came along, which again was a magic piece of music, wasn't it?
They wanted me to write a song. My management wanted me to write a song for the Brazilian Song Festival. It was an annual event, and Les Reed had written a lot of songs for it and had popular songs with Malcolm Roberts and people like that. So they asked if I could write a song. So I thought, well, I've never really written a song before. So I actually sat down with strumming my guitar. I was actually listening to the radio, and one of Solomon King or Engelbert Humperdinck song came on, like the last waltz. I had the last waltz. So then I had my guitar, and it wasn't this one, it was one before this. But and I thought I should be able to do that. That doesn't sound too hard to do. And so I just thought, but what's a New Zealand song? So I thought I couldn't steal Paul Karakareano or Hoki Mai.
Absolutely.
So I actually just had a brainstorm. I thought of my sister, Cheryl Moana. And then I also thought of my other sister's middle name, which is Marie, Tania Marie. And I thought Cheryl Moana Marie. So I just sort of started thinking, going, Cheryl Moana Marie, back home she's waiting for me. And once I had that,
Wow.
I called Nat Kipner, who is a great lyricist. He came over to England with me from Australia. And he actually put the final, words of the Sleepy Little Town Where Soft Breezes Blow, which was Kawarau, the lovely little Maori miss I used to know. And then I constructed the whole format of the melody and the title, and he just came and helped me with the little bits and pieces. And I went and gave it to Nori Paramore. I recorded it, and lo and behold, it was about 6 weeks later that he had an orchestra behind it.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe what I'd just done. I couldn't.
The little song that you'd
not
written
that
on
I
the
just
guitar.
gave him a cassette,
Yeah.
stupid old cassette with my first guitar. Handed it to him. He said, he said, I'll listen to it and try to do something. And then he put a full orchestra behind it.
Great story.
And it was just beer, came out magic.
Absolutely, and still to this day is so recognisable with you. And then, of course, Sister Tania said, well, I'm not missing out, so you had to do a song for her?
Yeah, that came quite a lot later, though. That about 10 years later, 12 years later. I needed, and I was touring, planning a tour of New Zealand. I needed another hit song to promote the tour. So I thought, if I did it with Cheryl, I'll be able to do it with Tania,
Yeah.
which went like dum dum dum. Tanya, our song will go on forever. Sweet Tanya, this song is for you. Then I knew I had it again. See, I knew I had that little hook line, catch line, you know. For New Zealand, anyway, it was a big hit here.
Your sisters must love you.
Well, yeah, they got sort of stones thrown at them and everything when they were kids. Typical school thing, you know, when Cheryl got a few stones thrown at her by her schoolmates, but Tanya, they just followed her around singing her song. So.
We could talk for hours, but I know you've got the guitar in here, you're busy. It's a fabulous book. It's called If I Only Had Time, the autobiography with Angus Gillies, John Rowles. It is a great story, so well done, John. And
thank you very much for that. Yeah, I've had a good time doing that.
Yeah, it's a
took
good
about
read.
A year to put together. Angus Gillies helped me, which he did a very good job. And I'm actually... I think there could be a screenplay in this book.
Wow, look out. A reality TV series.
Well, I would like... I've sort of given a lot of thought. I would like one of my sons. I have two sons. Dane is 13 and Blake is 9.
There's some lovely photos of them in the book.
And one of them, if one of them could play me as the paper boy in Kawerau, and my father was a Maori All Black, and so... You know, me as a child, I always sort of wanted to be an All Black, but Dane could play that part, and then it'll go up to find somebody to play the middle part, JR. Now it'll have to be someone quite energetic because I was full of energy, and lots of stuff happened along that way, and then I was thinking of coming, you know, around about, I probably could get away with 46, 45. I'll do the latter part.
Oh, good man.
So, you know, and I've got all the songs to do it.
John, fantastic. A little bit of a song before you go for us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, I got so many. I'm recording I'm going to do an acoustic album after the new year. If anyone ever finds a better way to love, it'll be her loving me. If anyone ever goes out of their way to show they care, it'll be her. Such a country here. Loving me. She's every woman that I've ever known rolled up in one. And if I'm ever loved anymore, she'll be the one to get it done the way it should be. Yes, it'll be her.
John, that's wonderful. Thank you for coming in to see us on Coast today.
Longer, but
It's great.